Hi there, well it's been a while since I made a video, but now I'm back for anyone who remembers me. Today I'll show you how I make Cornish pasties. Now these originate from the mining days in Cornwall, where a miner could take his lunch to work as a pasty which would fit in his pocket. Cornish pasties by tradition have to follow a set of rules which include a strict set of ingredients, which are onions, swede, potato, beef and pastry, which can either be short crust or puff. All the ingredients must also be uncooked when they're wrapped up in the pastry. They have to be crimped at the side, not the top, and they must also be made in Cornwall. Now that last one is a bit bizarre, because if you're a Cornish chef living in Shanghai, then you'll never by virtue of tradition make a Cornish pasty. It would probably be either a Chinese pasty or a Cornish pasty made in China. Anyway, enough with the semantics, let's cook a pasty. Okay, so we're going to do 4 pasties today, and to start off with we'll do the onions. So here's 2 onions. List of ingredients will come up in a bit. So we're just going to peel them, and then we're going to slice them so they look like the sort of sliced onion you get in a salad. There's one peeled. Just clean the board off. And there's our ingredients. If you want to slow it down or pause it, then you can make a list or whatever. It makes it easier to read. Just getting rid of the skin type membrane which you sometimes get on onions between the layers. Right, and here we start chopping. So we cut it in half first, and then we'll just start slicing it from the end inwards. I always slice very slowly with this knife because it scares me. It's a big old chopper, very sharp. Just get the bowl out and start breaking them up into the bowl. Easy peasy. So that's one onion done. Let's just do the last one and then we'll move on. Obviously I'm not going to show all of it, otherwise we'd be sat here all day. Just to give you an idea of how I slice an onion. I know slicing an onion is pretty straightforward, but you never know. Someone might not have done it before. Okay, so we're just finishing off the second onion here. Last bit. Okay, let's start the Swede. I don't normally peel the Swede because I probably won't use all of it anyways. It would be too much. I find it easier just to cut one side so you've got a flat surface. which you can then place back on the chopping board with the flat surface down, which makes it a lot more steady to cut, like that. And then just cut it in large slices so that you can make chunks out of it. They are pretty tough, Swedes. They sort of fight back a bit. And I think the big chopper is sort of a lot more useful for cutting Swede rather than just a normal knife. Just cut the edges off. Right, now we'll start making chunks out of it. Simples. As I said, I don't normally use all of the Swede because otherwise it'd be too much. I mean, they say in the recipe you should have a 50-50 ratio between the Swede and the potato, but I tend to use less Swede. I'm not a huge fan of Swede, but it's necessary for the actual pasty itself. Potato time. Got to peel them and then do exactly what you did with the Swede, except these are easier to cut. Sort them out. I actually ended up using just 2 potatoes because 2 was enough for 4 pasties. Pop them in the bowl. Give it a good old shake. Mix it all in. And now for the meat. I used about these. This is actually 2 whole steaks, although one sort of fell in half. But I used about 1.5 steaks. I cut all the fatty bits off, and anything which is difficult to cut is going to be also very difficult to chew, so I get rid of that as well. You know, gristle and what have you. Shouldn't be any gristle really in a rump steak, but sometimes you never know. And just pop it in the bowl with everything else. I'll just cut a bit more meat up after this. There's not quite enough there. Just same as before. Right, salt and pepper time. Basically you just put salt and pepper in to how you want it, you know, for taste. It's just seasoning. Mix it all in. You've got to mix it fairly well because meat tends to stick to itself. A bit like cling film, really. Right, you need 2 trays for 4 pasties. You could probably fit them all in the same tray, but what I do is I just put the baking paper on top, ready to put the pasties on once you've made them. You also need to whisk up an egg. Basically this is just for sealing the edges and what have you. So you just got to crack the egg into the cup, whisk it with a fork, and then use a little brush to paint the edges. You'll see in a bit. I don't think I actually cracked it hard enough, but never mind. Got there in the end. Then whisk it up. Right, this is a mat which I use for either making bread or basically for pastry. You can just put flour on it. I think I got it from Amazon actually. It's quite handy for putting on a workbench. And it's non-slip on the underside as well. I couldn't find any normal flour, so I had to use red flour, but it's just for dusting. Make sure that things don't stick to each other. Packet of pastry. This is Puff Pastry. It's 500 grams. It doesn't want to come open. I tend to find that with most food you buy in supermarkets, opening it is the biggest issue. You can't get into it sometimes. I'll just sort of dust it over on both sides and the edges, just so that it doesn't stick to anything. I'm sure it wouldn't. And then what you want to do is quarter this, because you're going to make 4 pasties. So just cut it into quarters. Now I tend to actually roll this into a ball. Each bit of pastry I just roll into a ball. It makes it easier to make a sort of round shape when you're rolling it out. Because a round shape is what you want to actually form the pasty. And just press it down onto the board so it looks roughly round, and then you just roll it out with a pin, rolling pin. I mean, sometimes they don't sort of stay round as you roll them out, but it's fairly simple to actually get them back into roughly the sort of shape that you're looking for to make a pasty. I think the key to this is to actually try and maintain the same thickness throughout the piece of pastry. You don't want any sort of high spots, or you don't want any really thin spots, because otherwise what you put in there will probably come out if the pastry's too thin in any specific area. Quick finish. It's pretty much the shape that you want, roughly. Now it's time to put the filling in. What I tend to do is just make sure that you've got a sort of even amount of meat, onion, swede, potato, just so that you don't have any sort of excess of one particular ingredient over the others. Because otherwise you end up with a funny pasty. The thing about pasties is they get their unique flavour because the ingredients are all raw, but when you enclose them in a pastry package, if you like, then they basically cook inside that. It's like sort of steam cooking, which, you know, all the flavours from each of the ingredients sort of blend together. Anyway, now it's time, you've got enough filling in there, so now it's time to seal the edges. So you're just going to put some of the egg which you whisked up earlier along the edges, just half of it, and then you're just going to roll the other side there and bring it so that it joins with the side where you've just put the egg, and then you just press it down. And there you go. So you press all the edges down, make sure it's all joined together. And then you need some more egg along the edges again, because then you're going to turn it in on itself on the edges. Just like that. I've probably overloaded the pasty a little bit, but it's alright, it'll all stay in there. And then finally you want to pop some holes in the top to let the steam out, because otherwise it will probably burst in the oven. And then you put that on the baking tray. Just finishing off the second one. I won't do all four. Well, not on camera anyway. So you're just rooting around in the bowl to make sure that you get an even mix of the ingredients. Although you sort of mix the bowl up, they do tend to, especially the meat, just sticks to itself. Right, at this point, you can probably hear the oven going in the background. So the oven's preheating to, I set it to 200 degrees fan oven, and I set the timer for 45 minutes. So I'm just sealing the edges of the second one. Very nice. Pop some holes in, and one for good luck. And on the tray it goes. And there's all 4 of them, ready to go in the oven. Okay, now it's time to put them in. The ones on the bottom shelf will cook just the same as the ones on the top shelf with a fan oven. Doesn't make much difference, to be honest. And sit down and relax for 45 minutes. And they're ready. Nice pair of white legs there. And flip-flops. You open that oven door, the smell is really nice. I love the smell of pasties. And there they are, in all their glory. Cooked just right. Very nice. Take a look at that. Very nice. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I have more recipes coming up in the very near future. Crispy beef stir fry and potato soup, to name a few. All the best, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now. Hello there. Well, it's been a while since I made a video, but now I'm back for anyone who remembers me. The dog is puffing and panting in the background. Today I'll show you how I make Cornish pasties. These originate from the mining days in Cornwall, where a miner could take his lunch to your bloody tail's in the way. Alright, let's start that again.
Sorry. No, come here.
Oh, you daft dog.
She wants to be in the